Hi, Empress Justice here, and welcome to everything that I have learned about Librans. Now, Librans are known as the attractive ones, or the charming ones, or the ones with social graces. But in order to understand a Libra, you have to understand one thing about beauty. Beauty involves a lot of work. I'm going to say it again. Beauty involves a lot of work. And the reason why Librans are able to turn a look, able to really fix the aesthetic of their environment, the reason why they're able to do this is because they have had to put the work in. From early life, even those with really, really good backgrounds and loving households, Librans have had to put up with a certain amount of restrictions and limitations. They've had to put up with a lot of rejection, a lot of not getting what they want, a lot of disappointments in their lives that they have had to alchemize and turn into graft and endurance and a certain level of emotional control. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I say air signs are really, really good at alchemizing the negative and turning it into something positive. Librans are masters at this. They're masters at turning everything that they've had to endure into something that they can make into beauty and sanctuary, not only for themselves, but for other people. They turn the hardships in their lives into something that other people can use. This is something that a Libran excels at. So, because beauty involves work and graft and endurance, when you see a Libra shining, seemingly, doing well in terms of aesthetic, it's because they've put the work in. It's not because it came to them easy. Even those who are naturally attractive or naturally artistic have had to put the work in order to manifest the charm and the pleasantries and the attractiveness and the environment, the pleasing environments that they actually have. They've had to work at it. So whilst Librans can have a great deal of emotional control, and they know how to direct that energy towards work and enduring, they can also be quite anxious and they can be quite finicky because, again, they have to work for everything. So they tend to be quite stressed and highly strung as well. But yeah, they're grafters. They're absolute grafters. Also, they tend to be prepared for eventualities in a way that a lot of other people aren't, because of the disappointments that they've had to face over the years, and the fact that, in spite of appearances, Librans very rarely get what they want. I personally have never seen a Libra get exactly what they want. It takes special circumstances for a Libra to get exactly what they want. That's what I've noticed anyway. If they want something, they have to put the work in. A lot of Librans who have managed to accomplish their dreams had to forge their dreams by being prepared for every obstacle that got in their way. So this is the story of a Libra. That's the real story of a Libra. Librans tend to be extremely well prepared, enduring, hardworking, and emotionally in control. Even when they're angry, even when it seems like they don't have emotional control, they have emotional control. Okay? Even when it seems like they don't, they have control. Now, the good part is that Librans don't necessarily need praise in order to be hardworking. Librans tend to be praised by a lot of people because of the end results of their hard work, the beauty, the charm, the wonderful surroundings. People tend to praise Librans because of what they can see from Librans. But this is the thing about Librans: they don't need praise in order to work. They don't need praise. They don't need appreciation in order to get the work done. They can just get the work done, and that's all they need, right? All they need is like the right amount of rage to put the work in. That's all they need. They don't need anybody else's approval. But there is an insecurity there when it comes to other people's approval and when it comes to how easy Librans tend to get it in life. First of all, Librans, in spite of appearances, are not necessarily the most reasonable people. And I know people are going to say that's not true, but what do I mean by reasonable? I mean logical. I mean, you know, close to objective as possible. A lot of Librans can struggle with that because all they know really is work and rage. So sometimes Librans can struggle to be objective. A lot of people, this is why Librans take a long time to make a decision. It's because they actually struggle with objectivity. It's not because they're naturals at it. Arians are naturals at objectivity. With Libra, on the other hand, the sister sign, they're not as objective as people think. That's why they often take their time in deliberating things, because they need time to look at different perspectives. Whereas Aries, they already have different perspectives. They're already well balanced in their opinions, so they don't need a lot of time to think. But Librans need that time to think. That's the first thing. Second thing is that a lot of Librans can struggle to think positively because they're used to being on the back foot. They're used to being in defense. They're used to having to prepare for when things go wrong. They're used to having their egos crushed again and again. So they can tend to be on the pessimistic side. Also, they can resent other people who seem to have it easier than they do. They can resent people who seem to just coast through life or get everything handed to them. They can have that resentment. Of course, the resentment is what drives them to work hard, but they can resent people who seem to have it easier. They can resent people who seem to have a natural confidence that Libra has to work for every single day. They can also have a very complex relationship with praise. Librans want to be praised. They want to be acknowledged. So, even though they don't need the praise, even though they don't need the compliments to get their ass up and work, they would like at least a little bit of acknowledgement. And they don't hate when people don't give it to them. It's more that Librans hate that they need praise in the first place. Librans hate that they want praise from people. Librans kind of almost wish they didn't really want love or didn't really want like joyful things and stuff like that. They wish they didn't want that. They wish they didn't want what they wanted, because 9 times out of 10 it's just led to disappointment. Do you understand what I mean? So it's almost like they do want praise, but they don't want to want it, if that makes sense. And I feel like it's because Librans have the hell levels of self-esteem, like really low self-esteem. It's such a complex relationship because it's like they don't need the praise and approval to get up and work, but it's like, yeah, it would be nice to be acknowledged. It would be nice to seen for who I am. But a lot of Librans, if we're really real about it, they're not seen for who they are. They're seen for what they bring to the table. And I think Librans understand this, and that's what can make them resentful at times. It's like I can't ever say it's like it's only in special circumstances that a Libran can not take responsibility for what's going on in their lives. Even if they didn't cause certain things, they have to, it's like the responsibility is landed on them anyway, which is very, very troublesome. But yeah, the life of a Libra, it looks like one long cocktail party where, everything's fun and everything's like, yay, yay, it's beautiful. Like, but again, to socialize with people, to maintain relationships, to maintain aesthetic, it takes work every single day, attention to detail, something that Libras have in abundance. It takes work to create worlds that merge together. And that is what goes on in the complex mind of a Libra. Subconsciously, they are always aware of this, always aware of the work it takes. So a Libra is always working, is always working. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. They're always working. They're always paying attention to detail. They're always enduring. So that was a mindset of a Libra. That was everything I know about Librans. I am Empress Justice, and I will see you in the next reading. Peace and blessings. Bye bye, my darlings.